Right.
Okay. Hello, my name is John Michael Foulger. I'm represented by Merida's Management. I've been an actor for 30 plus years, primarily big screen, small screen, and commercials. Love reading new scripts. Thank you. Ian.
Hello, I'm Ian Laing, a mature Scottish actor, a voice artist. I've come to acting later in life and have a specific focus on screen opportunities. Catherine.
Hello, I'm Catherine Adams. I'm a professional actor, don't really care which pronoun you use. I'm experienced about 20 odd years professionally from theatre, short films, voice work, and a little bit of writing and directing too.
And I'm Angela Elliott, and I'm a scriptwriter and novelist. Started out doing documentaries and then moved into drama and film. And as John said, we enjoy reading new scripts here, and we usually read the first 10 pages of submissions each week and offer feedback. So today we will be reading The Doghouse by Tom Roberts.
Character list. Owen, below average height, broad-shouldered and bearded in his late 20s. He is wearing overalls, coveralls, workwear. Working class, rough hands. Lee, slender and sharply dressed, taller than Owen and has the earmarks of the upper class. Soft hands. Scene 1, internal, pub.
That was pure hilarious. What was her name?
Moss.
Big Brenda.
Big Brenda Moss. Legend.
She just couldn't control the class.
Wonder what happened to her.
Died of a stroke.
Did she?
I don't know. Probably. She was fucking huge.
She was big, wasn't she?
Big.
Big. Drink up.
She was always like, Owen Davenport, why aren't you out of your seat?
Are you listening to me?
Of course, Miss Moss.
Can you repeat back the instructions I've just issued?
Sadly not.
Get out of my classroom, you beastly boy.
She used to love a bit of name calling, did our Brenda.
She was a pushover. I mean, how'd you get away with some of the stuff we did in the workshop?
Hide the bin.
Classic.
The squeaky stool.
She hated that stool. Every week without fail, you'd managed to find it. She tried moving it around the room. She tried hiding it in the cupboard.
I loved that stool. We had a connection.
We must have done that, crazy woman.
I tell you what she hated more than that bloody squeaky stool.
Go on then.
Hammer Wars.
Bloody hell. Who the hell came up with Hammer Wars?
I did.
Why?
Don't you remember? I walked up to you one week in DT and pretended to smash you in the head with a hammer. But when you did it back to me later in the lesson, you smashed something on the table and it was super fucking loud. You got sent to isolation and Hammer War was born. The only rules were you had to speak the words Hammer War before you swung. Your opponent had to freeze and you couldn't make real contact. Closest strike without actual contact won.
I was fucking champion.
Yes, you were.
You'd never get away with half that stuff we did at school nowadays. No chance. Tez from work as a boy at secondary school, 14 years old. They excluded that lad for 3 days for flicking an elastic band across the room at a supply teacher. They called it a fixed period exclusion for violent behaviour.
And there was me and you walking around with a bloody hammer pretending to club each other.
Crazy times.
It's years ago now, mate.
Too long ago. Drink up.
They drink, finishing their beers and filling them back up from the pitchers.
So many characters in our year.
No, you can say that again.
I mean, when I talk to other people about their school days, they've never got the kind of stories we have. They've never had a cohort of wacky bastards that we had. Because, let's face it, Lee, the only way to describe those people Wacky bastards.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Reese Goodwin, weirdo.
Total mummy's boy. Legit panty sniffer. No hesitation.
He was always weird. He always looked like he was in his mid-30s. Looked like he was worried about his mortgage payments.
I'm sure he hit puberty in year 5.
He had an unfortunate moustache. I remember that for a fact. It appeared on the first day of year 9, and he didn't have the sense to shave it off until he left school. Poor chap.
Pedo moustache. That's what they called him.
Do you mean what you called him?
Clarissa Leach.
Clarissa. Wow. I used to sit next to her in maths.
Yeah, back in the good old days of Set 3 maths, eh?
The good old days.
Everybody's favourite, Gypsy Bride.
She actually is now.
You what?
She wasn't from a gypsy family originally. When we were at school, I mean. People thought she was, but she never bothered to correct people. She's part of that lifestyle now, though. She married one of those lads who ran the teacups when the big fair came to town.
Oh my God. Flashback. I remember us being on the...
I know what you're going to say. We were on the bomber, and when we got off, you cut down the side, and there was old Clarissa on her knees.
Noshing off a gypsy lad.
She married him.
You're lying.
That's what I heard. Got married to him when she was 17.
Bloody hell.
The Wilson twins. Remember them? They were completely identical until year 10. Curtis started going down the gym and doubled in size.
Curtis was a decent chap. I mean, he loved himself, but he wasn't a bad lad. Once he got massive, he started killing it with the ladies. He cleaned up. There was a time when a few of us were real jealous of Curtis. Oh, I wasn't. I had no reason to be jealous. But you can't blame him for that. The dude just used all the tools he had.
I'm not convinced.
Convinced of what?
Curtis was a fuckwit. I never warmed to him. Once he started lifting weights, he became pretentious. Unbearably so.
I'm not sure that's fair. He was just one of the lads.
Lads? Lads? Lads?
What's that supposed to mean?
All the lads, all the banter, all the girls. Not my scene.
Fair enough. Now, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Well, his brother was something else.
Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron, he was a liability. Curtis was embarrassed of him.
Because he stunk.
Honking.
I never understood it. He got bullied relentlessly for it.
If my twin brother suddenly got ripped, if suddenly my identical twin isn't identical to me anymore, I'd do something about it.
Absolutely.
I'd be in the gym before school, after school, get a fucking bike, go for a swim. I'd be ashamed to be the ugly twin.
That's what you lot called him, didn't they? Them lot. Behind his back. That's what they called him.
The ugly twin.
Yeah, the ugly Wilson, pound shop Curtis. To his face. I remember one of the girls saying that Cameron is what you get if you order Curtis off a foreign website.
Yeah, I even mugged him off in his leader shop. Curtis had made in UK. Cameron had made in Taiwan. I don't know if he even got the joke.
Oh, I bet he did. I bet it haunts him every time he thinks about it. I bet it makes him want to swerve into oncoming traffic. I bet when his wife burns his toast, I bet he thinks about all the bullying he had to withstand at school and then starts throwing shit across the kitchen. I bet his wife's has had a few black eyes off pound shop Curtis because he can't cope with how shit his time at school was.
Fucking hell, man. That went dark all of a sudden.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if I feel great about how some people behaved when we were back at school. A lot of people got treated pretty rotten, didn't they?
I guess so.
But we were popular, so who cares, right?
Well, it's all part of school, isn't it? Though? Taking the piss and poking fun. Well, you brought it up, mate.
Take no notice of me. Just drink up.
You
Lee
were,
drink.
you were talking about all the weird characters. Well, you brought it up.
Yeah. Weird characters, funny stories. I'm fine with all that. It's just what I'm trying to say is I'm surprised Cameron Wilson didn't try and slit his bloody wrists. That's what I'm trying to say.
You didn't even.
And another thing, he had a brother, a massive beefed up brother. He could have smashed a few heads and stopped them bullying at any time. But he didn't. Why?
I guess we'll never know, Owen. Cursed to live with that unsolved mystery. How will we survive?
He liked being number one. It was about power. Curtis wanted to be better than his brother. He wanted to step out on his own and have his own identity, rather than sharing the spotlight with his brother. Fuckwit behaviour, that is.
Wow. Somebody has some baggage left over from school. A lot of hatred oozing out of you,
Hey, it's cool to hate.
if you say so. I'm going to the bar and stretch my legs. Now, my round.
Vote shots. Surprise me.
That sounds like dangerous behaviour.
I'm feeling dangerous.
Lee exits and Owen sits at the table. He is deep in thought and appears to be giving himself a pep talk. He shakes his head and slaps his cheek. He takes out his phone and looks at it. The background of his phone gives him comfort. He appears to come to terms with his thoughts. Lee appears with a tray of 6 shots. He starts splitting them up between himself and Owen.
Are we still playing?
What?
A little blast from the past game. I hope so, because I've got a good one.
Yeah, sure.
Shots first.
After you, pal.
Same time.
Go on then.
They do the first shots in together. Lee coughs and splutters and turns away from Owen to compose himself. Owen quickly pours his other shots into Lee's pint pitcher, then proceeded to slam the other shots down in turn. He throws his head back and pretends to have downed his 3 shots in a row and reacts like Lee with coughs and splutters. Lee turns around.
You're an animal. I thought we were taking it steady.
I told you, I was feeling dangerous. What you waiting for? Down the hatch.
Lee downs his 2 remaining shots.
I'm ready when you are. With a name.
Whatever happened to Kirsty Warren?
Bloody hell. I forgot all about Kirsty.
Crazy Kirsty. That's what I called her.
A lot of people did.
I bet she's in prison.
I always pictured her having kids.
Loads of kids, all from different dads.
How many constitutes loads these days?
She was rank, mate. I would never have gone there. And I've harpooned a few whales in my time. I mean, I've scraped the bottom of the barrel more times than I care to remember.
Such a gentleman.
I'm a shagger, guilty as charged.
And for some reason, you've always wore that badge. You've always wore it like a badge of honour.
What are you trying to say, pal?
I'm saying exactly what you think I'm saying. You were a bit of an animal. Built a reputation. Infamous.
Infamous? Well, that's a stretch. There's nothing illegal about being young and careless, Owen.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Finish your drink. Top up your drink.
Lee does.
Well, your turn. Now, give us a throwback name. See if I remember them.
How about Natalie Bernard?
Mate, you know, I remember her. She was the one that got away. I could have married that girl. No lies. I chased her up for a long time. It was all going well, and bang, she hit the brakes and turned cold on me, out of nowhere.
She was a beautiful girl, if I remember right.
My best friend was a stunner too.
Lee always remembers the stunners. Your turn.
Whatever happened to Hannah Westbank?
Wow. Hannah Westbank. Blast from the past.
You always had a thing for her.
Yeah. Nice girl.
Nice girl. You worshipped her for the whole year 11.
Worship is a bit of a reach.
Oh, you're obsessed with her.
Obsessed. I barely spoke to her.
You spoke to her at Ed Burns' party.
Edward Burns.
Ed Burns, the king of the house party. You know what I'm talking about? Don't lie. The party.
What party?
Between year 12 and 13. Don't you dare try and tell me you don't remember. Come on. Edward Burns and his outrageous house party went back to year 13. Please tell me you remember.
I never came back for year 13.
Yeah, I know, but that matters not. You were at that party, and you must remember.
Owen nods.
I saw you talking to Hannah that night.
You didn't.
I know what I saw, Owen.
I think you're getting mixed up.
I don't get mixed up.
You're mistaken then.
I don't make mistakes.
You're confused then.
Doesn't
Just drink your fucking beer.
sound like me. I don't tend to get mixed up. That was your opportunity. You could have had her that night.
Owen forces a smile and nods sarcastically.
You were still a virgin back then. You could have popped her cherry. Or you hers. You know what I mean?
Owen ignores him. Lee makes a popping sound with his mouth.
Stop.
She had a bit to drink. You could have made her Mrs. Davenport.
That was never really my scene, Lee. All a bit predatory.
A moment passes. They drink. Owen is hyper-focused. Lee is falling victim to the drink.
That was the night.
What?
The night all went tits up with Natalie.
Was it? How come?
I was pursuing Natalie relentlessly that night. If you recall, we spent some time together after sixth form social prior to the event in question. I enjoyed our time together. I was looking for a repeat performance.
And?
I mean, I don't know, mate.
You don't know what?
I shouldn't say.
You got to tell me now.
Let's move on, mate, yeah?
Okay, that's the end of our excerpt. Do you want to kick off, Catherine? Because you've been listening and
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure about this one. I'm a little bit confused, to be honest. It comes across like it's not sure if it's a radio or theatre piece. If it is theatre, it might be a little bit too static. There's no movement happening, so that's quite a long time for people just to sit. They don't, I think one of them gets up, but that's almost a good 10 minutes in, so that might be a bit too static. You might want to change something up there if it is a theatre piece. I think it would work quite well on radio with all the sound effects. That would be quite entertaining. I'm not sure how they know each other. Is it a reunion for those two, or are they just reminiscing? That's not so clear. It's not overly clear how well they know each other. So that might want to have a look at that, perhaps. It might come across in actions, but it certainly doesn't come across in the dialogue. So if it is just a radio piece, then you might want to add something here or there to denote how well they know each other, or when was the last time they saw each other, or something like that. With Owen, I found a little confusing. Without a specific character breakdown / direction on how he's played, he could be very, very strongly either quite evil or very empathetic. It really does come down to the acting of the words. The words are there. There's nothing wrong with the words. They're good words. It's nice writing with the dialogue, but because it's not made clear, the character, the actual characterization of Owen, it could be read, depending on how it's acted, as if he's a complete or actually he's quite sad and empathetic and reminiscing and feeling guilty about things. It could go either way very strongly. So depending on if the writer's bothered about which way it goes, wants to leave it up to the director, that's fine. But if not, then put it in the script. There's some nice little giggles in there. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. Where's it going? Is it just going to be those two in the pub for the whole thing? There was a couple of typos I saw, so I might want to have a quick proofread. Lee's dialogue, just going on the character breakdown, slips into more of Owen's dialogue. So be careful of the distinguishing wording used. It comes across not as posh, and sometimes he starts off quite well-to-do, and then his dialogue slips into more working class attire, if you will. Sorry, my diction's a bit rubbish at the moment. So having said that, but now I'm not sure if that's because he's succumbing to the drink and it's on purpose, or is it just that you need to tighten up the differentiation in characters or not. But I would like to see what happens. So it's intriguing. As I say, a little confusing, but it depends on where they're going with it. So that would need to be explained in the breakdown, I think. But otherwise, I quite enjoyed it.
Thank you. John?
Yeah. It's got potential. I like it. I do like it. I think I have to agree with Catherine. I think we start off with Lee being quite pretentious, and then kind of the drink starts to get to him, and he reverts back to maybe being as he was originally, like Owen, because they obviously come from the same background because they went to the same school. Well, I say same, I will say a similar background. We've no idea where it is, when it is, or how old they're.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that puts a lot of confusion in there.
Mm.
Well, I say don't know how old they are. I'm sure he says that at the very beginning. Just bear with me a second.
It doesn't, no.
Mm.
It doesn't say how old they are.
I think one of them's 20s.
Yeah, it says late 20s, so I'm assuming they're of the same age.
Yeah.
So,
Not that
maybe
far
they have.
away from school then, really.
No,
No.
it's not. I mean, late 20s, 10,
Still quite fresh
15
in your
years.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, has it been 10 years since they last saw each other? Do they see each other regularly? And this is just a night of chewing the shit? That needs to be explained at the beginning,
Yeah.
because that sets the scene. If you've got them both in their late 20s and they've met in a pub and at the shop haven't seen each other for 10 years, so the reminiscing starts, that would make sense to the whole script.
Mm.
But to start out with that big question hanging over it, you lose a lot of maybe what you're trying to get across. But yes, I enjoyed it. I think I want to know where it goes. I think I probably know where it goes, but it would make good radio, definitely.
Mm.
It won't make screen because you haven't got enough description in there. And you definitely haven't got enough characters. I mean, if you've got a guy going backwards and forwards to the bar, he's going to be making.
If it's formatted as a screenplay, I think it could work, but it needs obviously with the correct format for it. It needs a rewrite, but
as a screenplay, you're going to need more characters there. You're going to need the barman, just incidentals,
well, in the
not
background,
main.
Yeah.
You've got to give it some life. But I enjoyed it. I'd like to see where it goes. Yeah, definitely.
Great, thank you.
One thing I forgot to mention, sorry, I was quite intrigued about the title, Doghouse. Is that the name of the pub, or is that got intonations that later on something is going to be revealed, or interesting? But yeah, sorry, and that's me done.
Yeah, I kind of support what's been said already. There's no context, so it's difficult to really understand where this fits. I think this should be in the middle of the script somewhere. This is something that comes later. We should have a bit more understanding of where this is coming from. So rather than the first 10 pages, this should be further in to the big. If it's a longer script, it should be a bit further in. Or it make a nice little duologue, two-hander, and just keep it tight around what it is and make it ambiguous. That's a nice little thing to do as well. But we don't know if it's another 100 pages of these guys or what else. There's just no context whatsoever. So that's really my only thing. And really, along with everybody else's feelings, when and where, those kind of basic things. There's a few typos and a little bit of structure to the sentence, to the dialogue. Some commas here and there would be quite nice. Things like that.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, I deliberately didn't give you the very short synopsis that Tom sent us, because I do think it's very important to get what your first thoughts are on a script when you get it. That's what people are going to read. They're not necessarily going to always read whatever extra stuff you send them. So the short synopsis was that Owen and Lee are best friends at school, but that was almost a decade ago and they've since drifted apart. Lee is back in town and Owen wants to take this opportunity to reminisce about the good old days. Lee has a past he has never faced up to, and Owen has a secret. Now, knowing that, my notes, I'm kind of going, okay, but if Lee has a past he's never faced up to and Owen has a secret, we're not getting that from the existing 10 pages at all. And that's 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
And we're kind of going, okay, what's this about? What's going on? What is anybody's motivation to do anything? And as we've already said, and I do know that there was a monologue at the start, which Tom cut so that he could get in more dialogue for us. Does that monologue explain some of the situation? Because if it doesn't, even with it, I do agree that we need some kind of setup so that we understand that, you know, and it only needs to be a sort of one of them's already there waiting and the other one walks in and, oh, I haven't seen you for a long time, mate, you know, have you been? And, you know, that kind of stuff. It can be chatty, and do it in that way. So at the moment, I'm wondering if there's almost too much reminiscing at this point. Or can that reminiscing be split up with some of the stuff about why they're really there?
Interjected and
Yeah. I mean,
Why it's been 10 years since they've seen each other.
yeah, why has it been 10 years? And start to give us some sort of, I mean, if this is theatre, then you've got a lot more license to have one of them go off and do a little bit of internal kind of struggling with, well, how the fuck am I going to tell him, you know, that, so that you're building it for the audience so that we're kind of working, okay, he's got something going on, and you know.
and I use the reminiscent as a like trying to get out of saying what they're not supposed to.
Exactly.
I got the impression that there was definitely a secret in there somewhere, possibly two. Like he either had illicit relationship. Owen had illicit relationships with Lee's girl, or is Owen gay? Because he's so defensive.
Where, in actual fact, what you said, John, was that it would be really beneficial to have a barman, because that barman can be the foil for both of them. You know, it's a bit like going to your hairdresser, you know.
Oh, God,
the hairdresser asks you at the barman, and I know this, you know, anybody who spends a long time in pubs realizes that the barman soaks up everybody's angst and stuff and hears all the stories, a bit like your hairdresser, you know. So you know, maybe the barman knows what each of their secrets or their past is, you know. And it can be one of those things where, you know, you go up to get another pint and it's have you told him yet? Well, you don't think you should, you know.
And it depends on how well they know each other. Have they not seen each other for 10 years, or are they there all the time?
I mean, is Lee a regular in the pub? Is he there every Saturday night?
So I think you just need to think in terms of building that for how is your audience going to pick up on what you intend them to pick up on?
Dangle the carrot a little bit.
Yeah, dangle that carrot more. Because otherwise you can have all the dialogue's great and it flows really well, but it's not going anywhere at the moment.
They've introduced a lot of memory around these names of people. But we don't know if any one or a number of those are relevant to what's coming later or before, you know. So it might be nice to have some kind of little flashback things as well. I mean, you know, with these characters somehow, you know, to brighten the whole thing up, because the dialogue is good. I think, you know, you're leading up to this clash of two people who have been holding something back from each other for a long time. So we want to see what goes on from there. But I'd like to see a bit more about how it got to that point.
Yeah, exactly.
10 years
But,
previously. Or whatever.
the other thing was I got slightly confused between the two characters and started mixing them up because I was aware that Lee, and I'm still confused. One of them seemed much more bullyish than the other. You
Mm.
know, much more
I
kind of
got that. Yeah.
doing
Owen
stuff.
was
Yeah.
definitely.
The
Yeah.
other, and the other, but it was Lee that poured the drinks, you know, surreptitiously in Owen's drink. It was Lee that did the stuff behind Owen's back.
I mean,
Owen,
it's not obvious if it's evil or jokey, is it? So it's not.
it's hard to know.
Yeah.
So those characters started to become one almost, and
Yeah, they do gel, don't they?
and that is really important. That if you're going to do good dialogue, depends on having each character having their own voice.
I mean, I know this sounds ridiculous, but are they two personalities in the same body? Because
Well,
one
this
is
the thing.
one
Is
is
it
very
Fight Club?
empathetic. One is
Yeah.
very empathetic,
Yeah.
and the other one isn't at all.
No.
Well, again, it still depends on how it's played because the words
Yeah.
could lend themselves to the extreme of either or for both of them, really.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could.
So
They
a
get
lot there to think about.
But
Are they
you struggle with personality with these
away from
two.
each other? They're actually been in love with each other for 10 years but haven't said anything or something, you know.
Possibly, yeah. But as I say, you struggle with personality with these two.
Mm.
They do read like the same person.
Yeah.
They start off different and kind of swim into each other.
And merge. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that could be on purpose if perhaps they are both in love with each other. Maybe they're more similar than they think. I don't know if it depends because it's not really.
But at the moment, I mean, we got to page 4 and I'm thinking, and what I was thinking was, okay, but what's going to happen here? You know, it can't just be, and then we get to page 10 and I'm even thinking that at that point, I'm thinking, we're still doing a lot of reminiscing. We're not moving forward. The plot hasn't moved forward. And that's how long is this going to be as well? That's the thing, you know. So
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, I get that what you were saying, Catherine, about them possibly one or both being in love with the other, especially by the fact that you seem to get this. Lee was a ladies' man, and he seems to have worked hard to have been a ladies' man, almost to compensate for the fact that he doesn't really like women. That came across, but
Yeah, could be.
I don't know. It's very,
it's very confusing.
It's a little bit too sit on the fence, I think. You need a couple of carrots here and there to at least nudge the audience in, even if it's leading them down the garden path on purpose. Go for it, but a nudge in some direction at some point.
Definitely.
Okay,
keep them interested.
But thank you very much,
Very
Tom.
good dialogue.
Yeah, thank you.
Useful for you.
Nice to read it. It was nice read.